What is up, everybody? Welcome. Happy October 19th. I hope you're having a great day. I'm coming to you here from sunny San Diego. I'm very excited here because we've got a great little webinar event that we're going to teach you a lot of great things. Let me go ahead and bring up here our guest of honor here so we can bring up Ron. Ron, what's up, dude?
What's going on, Jimmy? I feel like I get to see you every week now, which I love it.
I know, man. I think we were together a week ago, literally a week ago.
Literally a week ago.
Yeah,
Today, a week
Charleston,
ago.
South
Yep.
Carolina, which is an amazingly pleasant place, by the way. I gotta still come back and say, man, traveling there was really hard, but God, it was a nice little place. I see why people like it.
Yeah, it is its own little world. They've created their own little sector, so we got to go back.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a pretty cool community down there, and it was surprising, and I understand why Brad is building down there with Elevar team down there. So it makes sense, right? It's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, I want to jump right into I know you're all busy. We're all preparing for Black Friday. We've got a big hustle. Even us, our sides, we're doing system testings and making sure that we're ready for go live for everybody as we go into it. But, today we've got some exciting stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring your slide deck up here a second here. Ron's got this amazing presentation. We're going to do it together, and we're going to go through some different parts and teach you guys all about a lot of things. So we're going to kick it off with the title here. It's Haunted Hacks, Unlocking Frightfully Good Sales. Big shout out to the marketing team for always coming up with witty, Halloween-centric or theme-centric events. I love it. We call this event internally CR Boo because it's Commerce Roundtable Boo. So with that, all right, Ron. Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it from here and start kicking off this show. I'm going to take it in and I'll chime in along the way. But Ron, you've got the floor.
Sounds wonderful. Once again, to the Sendlane team, thank you for putting this together. Thank you for creating a platform for founders like us to come and share our journey, what we're doing, what we're hoping that can work for others as well. So super excited to jump right in. But I'll start a little bit with a little bit of who am I, right? So what a lot of people may not know, I actually started off as an accountant. I worked at Deloitte as an accounting major in college. Got the opportunity from there to become a controller, so still an accounting role at a startup company called Shreds. And Shreds was a startup supplement company, which also incubated Skinny.com, which is a weight loss tea company, and Flavor God, which is a healthy seasoning company. Worked there for about 2 years. We, at our peak, built the three brands together at about $100 million ARR. So got to see some incredible stuff, both on the marketing end, finance end, et cetera. And I also met my two founders today at that company as well, Ashwin and Ankit. From there, we actually left and started working for Aloha, which was a vegan protein brand. We wanted to take our talents and go into something that was a little bit less sports nutrition and more on the sports nutrition on the vegan protein side. Got to build their digital marketing group up, and from there got the opportunity to actually take Hooked on Phonics, which is a legacy brand known for being mainly books, and we actually brought their product fully digital. And that was a really cool project. So kind of all over the place. And you can probably tell that we were trying to figure out what we're going to do next. So 2017, we finally said, you know what? We love this marketing space. Let's stay in it, but we're not ready to start our own brand. So we started a marketing agency called Ghost 3 Media. We focused on working with D2C brands and scaling their Facebook ads, Instagram ads, et cetera, and building out websites and really learning on the job. Ran that for about 2 years. 2019, we finally said, you know what? It's time for us to go and build our own brand. And we started a brand called Obvi. Those who are not familiar with the brand, it's a women's collagen line focused on health and wellness, but more around beauty than anything else. It focused on hair, skin, and nails through delicious powdered proteins. And again, started the brand in 2019 because we were tired of building other people's brands and we wanted to take a crack at it ourselves. Our goal was to disrupt the market by saying, hey, here's what we can do by having collagen that tastes good. We actually think people can actually get excited about taking collagen. So here's why you should care, maybe like, why am I here? And why am I talking about what we've done and why we talk about Obvi so much. First of all, we bootstrapped the brand from a $10,000 investment to about $30 million in 3 years. We've raised $2 million in a seed round using Twitter and LinkedIn. So a lot of our friends and family in the space are actually investors in Obvi. We've now, since we've raised the round, we've actually surpassed 60 million in revenue. And we most recently, 2 months ago, launched nationwide in Walmart. We did this with an 11-person team. So for those of you guys who are, looking to stay lean, definitely it's possible. And then we were 2022 Brand of the Year by Stack 3D, which was pretty awesome to see because we're going up against some juggernaut brands. And a little bit more about where am I today, right? Obvi, as we mentioned, one of the brands that we've built, bootstrap, and has done, pretty incredible in revenue. What's also really cool is we kind of get to have multiple perspectives in what we're building. We're also most recently have acquired a brand called Coffee Over Cardio. It's a sub 8-figure brand that has a pretty large subscription program, but it's a coffee made super functional for people who love cardio and love coffee before their cardio. It's a super fun brand, but it shows that we're also kind of in the weeds of building a brand that is still very gritty, still trying to scale. And then we've also rounded off our experience with starting a brand completely from scratch called Paw Rangers. So this is for like all of you, completely new brand builders. We're there with you on the ground. We're building Paw Rangers from the ground up and utilizing resources like small budgets and small team again. So what's really cool is these 3 brands give us the experience of kind of being in a lot of different shoes. And then lastly, with our free time, we run a podcast called Chew on This. It's a podcast for D2C founders and operators to focus on what mistakes we've made, what successes we've had, and what you can apply quickly so you don't have to learn from mistakes. And for you guys to get a little bit more of a visual about where we are today, those are on the top 3 photos are our collagen brand. Again, we have some really cool collaborations with like Entenmann's. On the bottom left, you'll see our Hydrate product from our Coffee Over Cardio brand. Paw Rangers right in the middle. We have pet supplements through that. And then our podcast where the 3 of us get on and really, we're having a lot of fun talking about what we're doing and what we're building. And we're super excited to be actually collaborating with Sendlane on season 3. So a lot of really cool things to come. We're already 2 seasons out, so check it out.
All right, man, I love seeing the background, Ron, as I kind of watch and listen and continue to learn about you, and we continue to learn about each other. Every time I see this, I pick up something new, and one thing that stands out for me in a weird way, Ron, is for me, and when I think about business, is your finance background. There's a real big magic there that I know that from day one you've probably counted every penny perfectly, and that's probably a big driver to your success more than anyone even recognizes, because those extra 3-5 cents pennies, I know it doesn't seem like much right now, but you start adding and compounding those over hundreds of millions of dollars as you continue to go, like it makes a big difference to that bottom line over time too. And so I see that. Well, it looks like we've got a lot we're covering here today. We've got a bunch of stuff we're going to go over. So let me go ahead and run through this to kind of tell you guys what we're doing. So first, we're going to talk about why email is the most critical at your Black Friday, Cyber Monday success. Obviously, everybody on this webinar is probably thinking about this really within their business. So we're going to go jump through that.
Absolutely.
We're going to start into talking about standing out in a crowded inbox. Man, Ron, you're in an interesting space. Supplements, I mean, that's ultimately worth the space. So health, beauty, supplements. I mean, you guys are almost in the middle of that, and you guys like kind of bridge that gap. Crowded inbox, man. I'm excited to learn about how you stand out in that crowded inbox on your side.
Yeah, I think this one is one of the most, just to touch on this real quick, this one is the trickiest one, and we're all now getting into categories that are becoming increasingly competitive because there's a lack of barrier to entry to many different categories that we're building brands in. So excited to cover that point for sure.
Yeah, differentiation, right? Like they always say, like, what's your differentiator? That's what investors always like to ask. And you're like, well,
right.
Not really. It's just brand at this point. And I think it's really interesting how when you look at consumer, how much tougher it is in a lot of ways with that kind of thought process. Right. Promotional timeline constructions. I love this. I'll have a little mini segment on this, but I have a lot of thoughts around how to create that timeline and share that experience. So we'll go through that. The psychology of a Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopper. Man, I just said this on stage yesterday at Grow, or 2 days ago. I said, This is the one time of the year that the customers actually want your messages. They actually want to know what you're selling. They actually want to buy and they want to be bothered. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yeah.
100% agree. 100%
Yeah.
agree.
No, I'm very
It's
excited about that one. I want to see how you think about some of that stuff.
absolutely, yeah. And I think one more thing on that piece is like, there's so many twisted stories out there of like, oh well, you can't do too much or you can't do too little, but you want to hit your goals. And I think we as founders, as year over year founders too, sometimes if you're in your second, third, fourth year, you sometimes get in your own way of what just actually works as just keeping simple and keeping consistent. We're sometimes overcomplicating this, so excited to touch on this.
Wow. Yeah, that's I love saying simple, consistent, and focus on 80%. And people often
Yes.
get too stuck in the weeds too. Then we jump into segmentation. I think we just talked about this on stage a week ago at in Charleston, but we talked about segmentation. I love your strategy here. I can't wait for everyone to hear that. I love how it's really focused on Black Friday, and I think people are going to be shocked to think differently. I think it's always good to challenge people in their status quo. We've all been following the same playbook, and you're obviously going outside of that playbook. And it's pretty cool to see that happen. And then
Love
last
it.
but not least, nailing that offer. And the thing that I tell people all the time, I don't care how pretty your images are, how great your images are, how perfectly rounded those corners are. But the reality is, if you can't actually talk and communicate to the customer or nail your
Right.
copy, right? Like that's
Right.
such a big part of it. So very
Yeah.
excited. Well, Ron, let's let you continue going through this, man. It looks like we got a great little topic and timeline here that we've got to get through here in the next hour or so.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited to cover a lot of these, and also I think one thing we'll note is there's a lot of tactical pieces in this too. So I think it's not just going to be a lot of theory. You guys will get to see a lot of application as well. So really excited to start to jump in. And without further ado, so first, let's start by looking at some of the data from last year to understand a couple of things. Number one, why email marketing is critically important during BFCM, right? So I know, Jimmy, you got a couple of points against this, so we'll talk through this. But customers who make Black Friday, Cyber Monday purchases through email promotions typically spend 138% more than those who don't receive such offers, right?
That's
Think about it,
insane.
138% more. Um, and then, despite rising inflation, 43% of shoppers plan to use BFCM deals to buy gifts, right? So I think this part's so important because like we're always like, oh, well, the market's tough, the market is rough, and inflation, and people don't want to spend as much. But like, let's look at the real numbers and what shoppers are really planning to do. It's important to incorporate
Yeah,
that.
you know what's interesting there, Ron, is like when you read that, you're like, wow, like people are still planning to spend. I think they're
Yes,
not planning to spend less is not the right thing. I think they're just going to be more smart about it. They want to know the best
right.
deals they can get and where they're going to find it and to their favorite brands. I mean, honestly, like I think what I've always seen with especially online sales is because of the younger generation and demographic that tends to be that online buyer,
Right.
emotions is more important than finance
Emotions.
sometimes. And Black Friday is an
Yes.
emotional day because you're thinking of other people.
That's it. And that leads really well to the next point, which is 56% of BFCM shoppers make purchases for themselves, but they also are making purchases for their holiday gifts, the people in their lives, all of the other people that they need to cater to. Because here's what's not changing no matter what happens in the market: the holidays don't go away, right? Whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or just holidays in general, there is a time of giving. And guess what? No matter what the market's at, that's not going away, right?
Yeah.
So right where you struck on emotion and time of year and whatnot, all of those things still play a defensive factor to the market. And honestly, this defense is so strong that you see people still just spending money, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And look, Ron, you know, one of the things I talk about here, I think I love this statement here because they say purchase for themselves. One of the things I talk about, I learned by complete accident because we had a late shipment show up. We launched a brand new product at full retail on Black Friday. This is like 2016, circa 2016, right? I think it was 2015 or 16. But we had this whole collection, 6 SKUs, all these things that we were just late for a thing, and we launched it. And we sold out in less than 12 hours of this new product. And we quickly realized exactly what you said. People aren't just shopping for them. They go, oh man, I really want something for myself. And then when they see the new thing, that's what they want to buy. But the discount thing, because they're buying for someone else, they're willing to take that concession over there. But when it comes to what they want for themselves, they're actually there for the best and the hottest thing, not just because it's that emotional buying behavior. This is the time to shop. This is the time to buy. And I think that's really interesting. And that probably leads us to our last point, which I think I've got a really interesting question to ask you after this, but talk about this last point here.
Yeah, I think people always get shocked when we say this. BFCM contributes to 17% of Obvi's lifetime revenue. It is that fundamentally important and impactful for us.
Rod, the question I had, which is interesting, is now that you have this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and you guys do this, but thinking about what your brand does and how Obvi, for example, is really on that, like, being better, cleaner for yourself, health and wellness kind of thing. Do you guys see a second tick off happening in like January as you guys have it? So do you guys almost have like 2 Black Fridays happen?
Yeah. So what we have we have the Black Friday, and then we have what's called the New Year, New Me, right? We call it January 3rd because January 1st, you're still a little bit, most people are hungover still, but January 3rd, two parts of the world go crazy. It's supplements and dietary products, and gyms and memberships and signups for there. You see those go kind of berserk. I can't even help really compare it to a Black Friday. It's just it's totally different because there's almost a recklessness in terms of how people are buying, because they're like, hey, I've made so many mistakes. I've promised myself this. You have so many power forces. So I will say one note though, the Black Friday, Cyber Monday crowd that's buying, they're buying with far more intent. Whereas the January people who buy, they're buying with far more hope and spray and pray method, and not really even understanding and thinking why and what they're buying. They're just hoping that this is going to change their life forever.
Yep, the holiday 15, man. That's what it's all about.
That's exactly it.
All right.
And then let's jump to point number 2 from there, right? Which is why you can't just blast out emails and you just expect to crush it, right? I think this is something that happens especially to earlier and younger brands, where it's like, you know what, during this time period, we're just gonna send out 3-4 emails each day and probably 12 emails across 4 days, and it's just gonna crush, right? And I think there are certain points that we're forgetting and we're starting to recognize more. So I'll go into those real quick. Number one, personalization right now is so key. We'll talk about it later too, but generic emails, they're just not standing out in the inbox anymore. Tailoring emails to individual recipients who increase their engagement based on like personal attributes, such as, hey, I bought this before, I'm going to now hit you with an offer for this. Even if it's Black Friday, I'm going to tailor the offer for you. It makes people feel like, oh, you know what? This brand cares about me, so I'm going to actually put some of my budget for Black Friday, Cyber Monday to this brand because they care. Personalization is super important right now, so you can't just blast out a bunch of emails. Number 2, respect for your recipients, right? A lot of people are going to get a lot of emails, right? I think there's some stat like on the first like kickoff of the first hour, typical consumers are going to get like 15 to 20 emails within just the first hour of launching, depending on an average of how many brands they're connected to. That's a lot of emails, right? So you want to also make sure you're respecting the recipients, and this is where strategy comes in a little bit. But if you go too generic and you're not being respectful, you're really kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. Number 3, you want to avoid the spam filters, right? We all talk about, the deliverability and, promos tab and spam filters. We're getting to a point where there's more brands are using platforms like Sendlane to send their emails and just connect with consumers. And so if there's more, but there's not technically that many more consumers, you're going to naturally have people receiving a lot. And there's going to be a lot more of, hey, I don't want this, or mark as spam, or Google itself saying, you know what, you're sending too much, I'm gonna mark it as spam. So again, personalized, well-crafted subject lines, well-crafted headlines, well-crafted pre-header text, all these pieces are going to help you to avoid that spam filter. Number 4 point, is the engagement and click-through rates. I think this part is something that we again assume that, oh, you know what? Once people open an email during Black Friday, that's all I need. They're just going to click through and buy. The thing is opens are probably going to be even more widely done because people are just going to be browsing a lot. So this is where personalization becomes even more important, right? Where you're trying to capture the attention of, hey, why should I click on this, right? We do a lot of like mystery and check this out if you really want to know what's in here, or like, hey, we just added like the surprise and delight element. So once you open, at least the click through has more intent. Whereas, hey, here's a 60% off offer, buy now. Again, you have to find that right balance between just aggression, and, well, what am I really trying to get people in? There's still a funnel within BFCM that we have to work on. Lastly, we're going to go into this deeply, so I won't talk too much about this, but segmentation and targeting, this I think is the number one best friend that you have to use when it comes to BFCM planning. It's actually one of the highlight reasons we migrated from a Klaviyo to Sendlane is because the segmentation and targeting capabilities. This is the most powerful tool that I think we're going to use, that I think brands need to use. So we'll touch on more on this, but wanted to at least highlight these first two reasons. Okay, so it's safe to say that it's more important than ever to stand out from the crowd during an influx of Black Friday, Cyber Monday emails. And let's now touch on a little bit about what doesn't work, okay? What you're looking at is something you have seen, you maybe even have in the docket planned as a style of email you're going to have your designer create. But this is exactly in line with what majority of the brands end up doing. Okay, it's these long banner, vertical, image-based messages with calling out the obvious, which is Black Friday, sale, offer, and a click-through rate, right? Almost no personalization. There's zero real intent besides you just wanting this offer, why you're purchasing this, why this is the right time to buy, what's going to happen if you don't buy. It's just something that doesn't work because it's done too often and it's done by too many. And here's another example of also what just doesn't work, right? Which is talking about deals and something so vague and so general that now you're just saying, hey, here are the deals, and just mentioning that it won't last forever, or just mentioning it to be so vague and so general that you almost feel like it's so cold, right? When you look at these emails right here, right, you kind of just feel like, oh man, this is like, no one put in work into this, no one put in effort, and consumers are getting smarter. And in that way, brands have to become even smarter than consumers, right? So talking to your customers the right way, personalizing and having intent is important. And examples that I just showed you are really good examples of what not to do. So let's start out by understanding the people we are sending emails to and understanding the psychology of Black Friday, Cyber Monday shoppers. Number one, the FOMO effect, okay? Shoppers have to fear the idea of missing out. I like to side with the idea of everything in our store during Black Friday, Cyber Monday is limited, right? There just isn't enough stock, and honestly, that's probably the truth anyway. But this FOMO effect is actually the start of the journey of the psychology of a BFCM shopper, right? You have an X amount of budget allocated, and then the consumer starts their journey of shopping. The first thing they need to do is they need to feel like, if I don't buy this now, I'm gonna miss out, right? Number two is overwhelm and fatigue, right? Consumers receive like tons and tons of emails, and that becomes, what happens is there's a choice paralysis that happens here. And this part's important to address because you may look at them as, hey, I'm a brand and this is a consumer. I'm gonna send them something, they're gonna act one way or the other. But sometimes they may wanna act a certain way, but while they're trying to decide that, there might be 4 or 5 other brands attacking them for the same thing, right? And you just become like a little bit paralyzed of, what do I do here, right? And then you have step 3, which is research-driven buying, right? So right now we're in a place where shoppers are more informed than ever. I keep saying it, shoppers are smarter than the brands now. They compare deals, they read reviews, they look at the best value, they ask their friend, they call their family members, they're looking at Facebook forums, they're looking at Facebook ad comments, they're joining communities. There is just so much information. And so you have to understand that they're going to go back and probably double down to understand if they're making the right decision, right? Number four is when you go into the loyalty and trust piece, right? So Black Friday isn't just about attracting new customers, it's also an opportunity to get your existing customers and reward them, engage with them, and just get them back in the funnel, right? Letting them know that, hey, we see that maybe you were waiting for the right moment to buy, maybe it's been a while, maybe you just bought, right? But here's why it's the right time to buy again, right? Trust us that this is, first of all, limited, that this is the best offer, this is why you need it, consistency is important, etc. And building that loyalty again, it's not just about getting new customers, it's making sure that you build that with existing ones too. And then understanding the fifth piece, which is the emotion driven purchase. Um, this is where a lot of consumers, especially during this time of the year, they're looking at what's causing me causing me to be super excited, or causing nostalgia or joy, or what's going to get them to feel like, oh wow, like not just the FOMO effect, but like, oh wow, I'm like happy. I can't believe this is happening, right? Sometimes it's driven by the offer plus the product. Sometimes it's driven by the theme or the creative, or the fact that you may align with the creator or influencer, whatever it may be. But this is where that emotional driven purchase happens. So again, what we just went through is kind of the psychology of different types of BFCM shoppers, and also some of the journey that comes with it. But now we talked a lot about theory. I think it's time to get a little bit more tactical. And I know, Jimmy, you have some great points
Yeah.
around this too.
Yeah, I'll kind of kick off and I'll kind of talk. Let's talk about this a little bit. Black Friday teasers. I love this idea of getting tactical around it. Now, Ron, you've got this community going on right in Facebook. I actually went off and found it, and I noticed that some of the emails link out to it, so I went to go check it out. And dude, you've got this raving community that just talking about your product. What are you doing? Like, what are you thinking about when you mean a teaser to join the community? Is it like, hey, this is where the offers will be coming out, or the most special offers are coming out in this very specific place, so you're creating people to show up and create a habit somewhere?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for us, one thing that's very important for us is we pretty much drive everything through this concept of access, right? Nothing is given, everything is earned when it comes to our consumers. So if we are about to tease Black Friday, right? What we'll start to do is, hey, first of all, we're going to tease that there is something coming, but to even know what the teaser is, you need to join this community to see what that's going to be. Then from the community, that's really the only place you'll even find out what's going on. Otherwise, we don't really send out like an email saying, hey, here's the Black Friday offer. We'll literally say, go into the community, check it out. We'll start teasing it, or hey, join our most recent stream in our community to find out what we're revealing. Even yesterday, we started teasing our offer. Ash and I were live in our community.
Yep.
And I think it was like ended up with having 1,200 viewers and stuff, but out of our community. But out of those 1,200, now they'll start spreading the word like, oh my God, I can't believe what's coming. I can't believe I think it's this. And what it creates is this, like, even within the offer reveal, it creates FOMO. You start getting the psychology elements that happen even before the buying behavior happens.
I love the give and take mentality that you're giving. You're creating actions, you're creating habits, and you're creating things. They know they have to give you something. And we talked about this before too, but like getting people to do things habitual for you to make action just creates so much more intent when they're doing it. In fact, when I saw this thing, I was surprised. It says you're starting 14 days before Black Friday. So talk to us about that. Give me a high level on that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think when it comes to especially the give and take piece, right? Um, I think for us, what we felt like we were dealing with the most, especially when it comes into the supplement space, and you touched on in the beginning, it's super competitive. It's hyper competitive. Um, if we make it too easy for our customers to see what we're doing, what hard work we put into a product launch, or even just what we're curating or creating, we believe the value of anything new or limited is actually not getting its full value. So for us, that whole piece starts with we want our consumers to also understand that we put in work into making this happen. Even when it comes to like, hey, we're doing a BOGO offer and we're going to reveal it in our community, like we want them to know that this is something that we don't do every day. Number two, it's also hard for us to stomach us doing this, and we want to talk about that. We want them to feel it, and so then like overall you see the value of the consumer because they're like, oh my god, I have to do this, I have to get it now. So you're almost, I think teasing is you're almost like your pre-sell, and
Yep.
sometimes get even your commitment. That's kind of how we look at it.
Yeah, and you're providing incentive and where it'll be. I mean, you just kind of touch on those two things. Dude, that's exactly
Exactly.
where this next slide goes into. And this next slide we're going to talk about is a little bit more into this event playbook that basically Ron has outlined in a very different way. I call this the event playbook because to me, and it doesn't have to be exactly like this, just to be really clear, I wanted to kind of show you a framework of what you're doing. So Ron just talked about the pre-sale. 14 days before that sale is happening, he's already teasing it. He's talking about it. He's socializing it. He's doing the things that you kind of do to make sure that everyone else knows about it, create the buzz, the hype, right? And then he's got this community that he's leveraging where he can actually create that hype and have those people create that hype and create the viral word of mouth, right? And then he goes off, and I guarantee that introduction email is probably a gangbusters. Like, there it is. There's
Mhm.
the sale because they're so pre-warmed up, right? And I think this is where it starts getting interesting because, here we've created kind of like a flow where it's like an introduction email one to an SMS, and obviously different channels, different reasons. But as you kind of go through a lot of this and you look at the way that we've kind of structured the high level thought process around this roadmap is like we introduce and then we educate, right? It's like, okay, we got the sale in front of you. You obviously still didn't buy. It means that we need to slow down and brand and educate you, teach you why the benefits are so important to why you should make this purchase. And then you'll notice that there's a reminder SMS that comes in after that. The idea behind that is very simple. SMSs are used for now and intent tools. The sales happen within 2 hours often when it comes to an SMS. That happens for a reason because you're walking down the street, you get that SMS, you click on, oh, Obvi's having 20% off. That's the best sale they've had. Let me click on it and buy right away, right? And I think that what I love about as you kind of go through it, you'll see the FOMO starting to build. You're closing soon. You're closing in 24 hours, and you're sending SMS warnings saying closing now, and you've got the highest intent, and then you
Mhm.
close. And we all know
Yeah.
how strong. I mean, we always used to joke like the first day and your last day are probably your strongest times. All the in between is kind of like the trickle sales that happen, and this
Mhm.
little roadmap starts to create that. Now, I want to kind of dive you in with me real quick on this second part. I love this playbook. I used to do this playbook at my store. We always do call it the encore sale. We take the break and then we come back out again. What are your thoughts on that? Are you
Yes.
guys doing any of this encore stuff?
Yeah, I love this strategy. I think I'm going to talk from a founder level perspective first, and then what we're going to do. The problem with this in our mind is always there's greed. Okay, as a founder, you have greed, and you're like, if I wait 24 hours or if I wait too long, are the sales I'm going to lose in that time really going to be made up in that other period? And we actually started micro testing it too, where it's like we did it for like, hey, we're not going to say anything for half a day, maybe just a day, and just see if we come back, after a couple of days, does that almost make it twice as good? And it actually does. And this break is such an important piece, but it is so hard from a founder mentality or an operator mentality to get over it. But we are actually going to do that this year, taking a play out of your playbook of taking a small break and letting people digest everything that's going on, and also letting us giving us a leg up of being able to be kind of top of mind while other people are maybe sizzling out because they overdid it. So we're super excited to test this into it, but we've formally, I think greed always got us in the way, and I'm excited to actually take a play out of this now.
Yeah, and I think one tips that I'll give you, Ron, is like you really have to shut it off. Like if you got coupon codes, you've got things on the site, you kill it like it's over on purpose because the
Yeah.
FOMO needs to build up really hard. And when you re-announce it, you're like, I can't miss that. That was the great sale that I missed. And that's really what you're
Yes.
capturing. It's really crazy. It's like the whole idea of like you send an email and you follow up with those who didn't purchase and you see more success and conversion. It happens every time. Why? Because people just sometimes it's just timing, right? Like everything's timing based, and it's a really distracting time of the year, and everyone's trying to figure out what deal to buy. And right afterwards, when every other founder, to your point, next day is extending their sale one day, you're out there quiet while they're still trying to figure out. Then you come back with the sale, and suddenly it starts changing minds. So that's cool. Yeah, let's jump into the next one. We're talking about the 5 ways to make sure your emails fall deaf to ears and don't drive any revenue. I love this slide that you created here. So I'm going to let you take it away from here.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think this one is something that I think we all kind of sometimes talk about in passing, but we don't actually sit down and utilize this as a checklist before the send. And I think I really want this slide to be that checklist almost, where it's like, hey, we're gonna make sure we're following these guardrails because they're so important. So let's jump right in. Um, Not sending at peak open times and peak open rates, and typically you'll say like, hey, 9 a.m. or noon or 5 p.m. or 9 p.m. These typical times where you're going amongst the masses, right? And there's two theories to it. Obviously, well, it's going to be the most common time someone's on their phone or desktop to check. I think the theory here is, again, we as each year goes by and as e-commerce as a ecosystem grows and the offering and businesses grow, there's also just a lot more of everything happening. And so it's the perfect time to actually go a little bit against the grain and not always send everything at the time when it's peak time. And finding ways to go against the grain and saying, you know what, this is maybe a time that maybe people aren't checking it, but who knows? There is times where you can actually get to the top of the inbox or top of their phone, and there's a clear pathway for you being able to attack that time bomb. So really, not always just sending a peak open is important. And then bombarding your list with a ton of emails in too short period of a time. I think this is something that um, a lot of people, including us, we made this mistake last year too, um, where you're just sending so many, like even within our collagen, we would like do one for collagen, then we'd like 6 hours later send one for burn, and then another one for our superfood product. And it was just so many emails that even if people were buying in each one, you can see there's just the pure saturation coming from just way too much being happening. Unsubscribes go up, and overall affecting us. Another, I think, mistake is not aligning the message and offer with the rest of your channels. Um, I think this is something that very disconnected teams often have. Again, something we've fallen prey to, where email is like this, oh yeah, just create an image of this offer and let's run it. Whereas the ads may be like more holistic and maybe more focused on the certain product around the offer, or more even detailed around the offer, versus the SMS being like, hey, I'm just gonna blast people out. I think one piece here is going out, whether it's SMS, paid, organic, your website banners, your email, having a aligned message and offer really brings it all together, because we all have heard this enough now. It takes 3, 4, 5 times for someone to see something to make a decision now. And aligning messages is just a great hack to just make sure that becomes your first, second, third, fourth, fifth time seeing it. And then this one is, believe it or not, happens more often than not. Scheduling your emails and then you just don't look at it. This part, I think, especially when you're in the heat and like the eye of the storm of Black Friday, is probably one of the most important things to do. but is definitely ignored by majority of the people, which is we've scheduled our emails and we'll look at the data after Cyber Monday. And it's like, wait, no, that's not what should happen. Schedule your first email, maybe even schedule your other ones, and that's fine. But after your first one is sent, right? 6 to 12 hours later, look at that data. What is it telling you? Are people clicking? Are people opening? What are your A/B tests telling you? Right? Can you take one of the A/B tests in the winner and then do another A/B test on the next email? Right? Can you pretty much go down funnel to keep optimizing for what your data is telling you? So scheduling is good so that you don't miss anything, but not looking at your data and optimizing throughout the journey is definitely something you should avoid. And then I think this one is something, again, learned from the Sendlane team. If you don't consider different time zones, um, it's almost like being insensitive. And we talked about personalization a lot a few slides ago. This is another form of personalization, right? If I am in the West Coast and you're sending out emails at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. on the East Coast, do you expect me to wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. and be on your schedule to buy because you told me you have limited supply and it's going to be gone soon? It's insensitive. It's not fair, right? It's not my fault I'm in California. And number three, it almost creates a little bit of like, hey, it's already 9 a.m. They sent this email at 4 or 5 a.m. in my inbox. I don't even think I'm going to be able to get anything here. You know what? I'll just move on to the next thing. Being sensitive to the time zone, it creates so much levels of personalization. And sometimes people don't even recognize you're doing it, but they appreciate it because they are following the schedule that they're used to and not just something that works for your entire list. Cool. And I think this one is something that there is a sixth way, even though I was only supposed to go to 5. But the sixth way is people actually send emails to the wrong people altogether. And this is going to cover a lot into my audience segmentation talk. I'm obsessed, a little over obsessive about audience segmentation, but I think today's ecosystem that we're in and the market we're in, audience segmentation, and if you're not doing it, I think first of all that's probably going to hurt you a lot. But number two, if you are doing it, I think there's so many ways to be further critical and optimized. So I'm really excited to hop in here and jump in. So here are the 5 segments that we always push at Obvi, and I'll go into a little bit of why. So email, we are always looking at active and engaged for 90 days. This can be a little bit different depending on the category you're in, but for us, if you're with us in the last 90 days, you're engaging and you're active, we are gonna call you part of like our super user list because that's typically the cycle of buying, right? If my AOV is $70, which means you're buying probably 2 collagens, which means that puts you at, if you use it for 45 days each, you're probably in that 80 to 90 day mark of needing it to either replenish, reconsider, and just overall stay active in it, right? If you're out of that window, right, and you haven't purchased or engaged, I need to work on you differently. But that 90 days fits the format of our product and our purchase cycle. Another segment is our one-time customers. A lot of people chalk this up to like win back or like, oh, well, they're gone or sunset them. One-time customers, they are some of your strongest people because they've already bought from you. You've earned the trust of the brand. What may have happened here is they've either forgotten about you, forgot to use the product, didn't like that product, but you have maybe probably hundreds of other variations, or simply that you have been at the bottom of their messaging and you just need to keep going at them. One-time customers are something that you can work on turning around to a second time pretty easily, but there's a lot of different strategies we'll go into in a second. Another segment for us is repeat customers, right? This is just people who are coming back, buying 2 times or more. We segment these people out because they are someone that we need to appreciate the fact that they're coming back, right? These are people who are spending money actively. If we talk to them like it's their first time buying with us or we're not recognizing that they're a repeat customer, again, insensitive and not personalized. 4th segment, your non-customers. People left emails, left you SMS, left you consideration in some format, but just didn't buy. And then lastly, bought product and then returning product customers. So this is where, like, if you bought XYZ product from us, right, we're going to segment you out in a separate format than people who bought X ABC product, right? So our collagen customers, right, which again, within repeat, if you have collagen customers, we're going to segment you out differently than our repeat burn customers, right, which is another product of ours. And then even again within that, within returning, right? So if it's just your one time or your second time or third time, we're actually resegmenting you out because the way we're going to talk to you is totally different, right? If you've bought my product 4 times, right, I shouldn't talk to you the same way as someone I'm trying to persuade buying it for the second time, right? So again, this is why we go into the segments we do. All right, cool. I want to talk about, and I think it's a slide that has been screenshotted and saved more than I can count on. But this is how we break down and prioritize our different segments. Okay, so abandoned cart, welcome series, our quiz flow, browse abandonment, post purchase, our replenishment flows, our win back flows, subscription, retention, and sunset. We have deeper segmentation each, right? Where a lot of people think about it and say, oh, well, I do abandon, I do welcome, I do post purchase, right? And they think they're segmented, right? What you're really doing there is you're just taking the category of the journey that someone's in and separating that. Where segmentation comes in is within abandoned cart, right? Is this an abandoned cart from a customer who is completely new and has never abandoned before? You need to talk to them differently. Or is this an abandoned cart from a customer who comes back second, third, fourth time? They keep abandoning. You need to almost ask them, like, what the hell's going on here, guys? Like, why aren't you buying? Is it us? Is it you? Right? Why do you keep coming back here and not buying? Right? That tone is totally different. Right? Let's talk about same thing with welcome series. Right? We break our welcome series between general homepage. So if someone came into our general homepage, let's say through Google or a friend or affiliate, right? That welcome series customer, the welcome series that customer is going to get or potential customer is going to get is a totally different tone from the welcome series that someone who came through our burn landing page or a collagen landing page, because the landing pages are coming from aggressive ads that we're running on Facebook. And the only way you can get to the landing page is if you clicked on an ad, okay? So the way I'm going to welcome you is going to be like, hey, what the hell, you haven't purchased yet, right? Or, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why you need this product. I'm going to be ultra aggressive until you can fall into my post purchase, right? But I'm going to reference where you came from and why you need to buy what you came into looking for. Versus general homepage, I'm just going to welcome them to the brand, check out our founders. Here's our story, our journey. And then again, within even our 3 different landing pages, I'm going to talk to a customer who's buying Burn versus Burn Elite versus Collagen. Different because they're totally different benefits, products, etc. What I just went over, we do the same thing for post purchase, right? When I ask you to when I say thank you to you about buying the collagen, but it's your first time, I'm going to say a different type of thank you and a welcome than when you're post purchase and you're a returning customer and you're buying collagen, right? I'm going to say, hey, keep up the great work. I'm sure your hair, skin, and nails are loving this. I'm sure they thank you. This consistency. Here's what we see from customers who are staying with us for the last 6 months, 12 months, right? Versus the customers who are just bought, right? I'm going to talk to them and be like, here's customers who stayed on with us for 30 to 60 days. Here their feedback. Consistency is key. Making sure that you get to month 2 and month 3 and beyond is important. And letting them know that I recognize it's their first time and I'm going to be easier with them and flow them in. So I'll stop going. I'm sure you guys get the point, but I'll stop going into more detail for each one. But we do this for replenishment, win back, separating out the product and separating out what amount of purchases they've done is our 2 deeper segmentations that we do within our main segments. So again, this is something that I really challenge you guys to do. Using Sendlane gives us the ability to do this very quickly, and it helps a lot. But whatever you're using, this is just something you should definitely look to implement. Cool. So we're reaching the right people now, right? Because we went through deep segmentation and we're sending them the right emails, but how do we get them to buy, right? What are we showing them? What are we really getting into in terms of design, UI, UX, and making sure that we get people excited? So let's jump into how we're going to, step one, nail the offer, okay? You don't want to make it boring and similar to everybody else. I know this is so obvious for me to say, but I just want to touch on why I'm bringing this point up, okay? Just showing the offer and the product, like we did in slide 4 or 5, where don't do this, right? That is the definition of boring. That is what everybody else is doing. And although I may be stating the obvious here, I'm also going to be willing to bet on that a lot of us brand owners are probably going to design something like that. And that is not a good example of nailing your offer. Point two, make it access based. Make your customers work for it. I don't care if you do something simple like go like our most recent TikTok video or go like our most recent Instagram post to find out what the offer is in the comment section. Or go and share this on your story and we'll DM you the offer that it's going to be. Or join our messenger group on Facebook and we'll message you out what it needs, right? Make it access based. Let them earn it so that the offer feels like something that they've achieved instead of just got. Lastly, making it exclusive and making it so that they can feel the FOMO and urgency. This is tied to the access piece, but even if you can't somehow, for some reason, do the access piece, just making it exclusive is super important. Something we do is like the first 100 customers are going to get special access to our Black Friday sale, right? Or the first 50 customers who purchase are going to get a free gift, or the first this, or the first that, or the 100th customer is going to get their order completely free and refunded, so they get it from free. Like little things where it's like, oh wow, I kind of want to do that. I kind of want to do that. It's playing a little bit of lottery with your own brand, but it creates exclusiveness, and then also creates a little bit of urgency because you're asking them to do something in a certain amount of time or by a certain order or certain date, etc. Okay, step two, nailing your copy. As you guys can probably tell from this whole theme of presentation with Sendlane, some of the best copywriters there. But I think what's really important about this is copy is something that we've taken for granted because I think there's so many buzzwords we're told to use, and we don't really actually understand why we're using those. So I'm just going to go into a little bit more of that. Being precise in your messaging, avoiding fluffy words like our biggest sale of the year, right? Great subject line to test, but what are you really saying there? Besides just stating what's pretty obvious, it's Black Friday, it should be your biggest sale, right? What are you really doing besides just adding a bunch of fluff, right? So being precise in it, and or even triggering that there's a lot of preciseness inside the email is something you need to target. Next is making sure that you have emotionally charged words. Words like using terminology that resonates with BFCM excitement, like exclusive, unmissable, once in a year. These are things that are important to make sure you incorporate, but don't surround it by fluff, right? So if you're using one of these words that are going to get people excited or bring out emotion for them, you want to make sure you're still surrounded by preciseness, right? And then a clear CTA. Whether shop now, grab yours, discover the deal, it has to drive action. Here's another one that I'm going to probably say is obviously it's pretty obvious. We all talk about it, we've heard it. I'm not saying anything new, but here's what I will say that I don't feel like it's talked about enough is the CTAs here, the CTAs that we're all using, right? Try to also be a little bit mindful of what you're doing throughout the journey, right? Even changing simple words between shop now, get it now, grab yours, discover the deal, view the deal, open offer, like utilizing just a slew of 7 different CTAs that are still clear across the journey of Black Friday, right? Sometimes is enough to incite the next click, right? What I think here, I think is important is using clear CTAs is important, but using different ones that are across the journey of your campaigns is also important. Number 4, you want to build trust. Guaranteed, authentic, trusted by thousands. These are great keywords, building trust. I like to even take it one step further, right? When you're building trust, trust comes from typically what others are doing, right? What does trust mean? It's something that's happened before that you can believe will happen again, right? And so I really like to utilize the whole idea of don't just trust us. Here's the results. Here are the authentic results right below, or here are the trusted by thousands results right below, and then show them. Show them a before or after. If it's apparel, show them someone wearing it, or if it's a consumable, show it someone excited from eating it, and showing that review piece within an offer email is so important. Don't just assume putting in the offer and mentioning that is enough. Rebuild that trust, even if it's a consumer who's bought before. Lastly, one we've talked about a lot, one of my favorites, massive FOMO, limited stock, last chance, almost gone. This is going to be what you need to do throughout Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but making sure that while you're doing this, you can also add an element of, are they just bullshitting me, right? And that's why I love what Jimmy touched on, which is maybe have that exhaust period, like, hey, by tomorrow, before Monday, the sale's going to be done, and shut it off, right? Maybe shut it off for 6 hours. Maybe shut it off for 12, 24, 48 hours, and then bring back an encore, right? So that FOMO actually has some trust built to it. Okay, step 3, nail your design. Our one thing that we have in our at our brand, and we utilize across our brand, is our designs should speak like a landing page. Clear hierarchy, engaging visuals, easy to find CTA, consistent branding with the landing page that they most likely came from. Don't overcrowd the email with too much information, and then include visual elements such as a countdown timer, etc., even before and afters, etc. But if you look at our emails, the one you're seeing on the left, it stacks on top of each other. That is literally a replica of our landing page, just comprised and obviously smaller elements and stuff. But think about it. You just went to an ad, you went to this landing page, and now you're getting an email very similar to the experience where you had your consideration, right? It ties the journey together versus seeing something one place and then seeing something completely different. I think is really important to keep that journey going. Again, clear hierarchy. I don't find too many people that look at ours and say, I don't know what's going on here, right? You know what's going on here. This is a weight loss product. I'm telling you that you're gonna have a metabolism boost, suppression of appetite, and you're gonna see some fat oxidation. And by the way, here's the discount code, and you can get it here, right? It's very clear, it's very consistent, and it's something that works. And if you look at the bottom, that's where that trust factor, 4,000 plus 5-star review, guarantee. So everything we touched on in the copy piece, you can see a lot of the elements right here. So that's basically it. Number one, the takeaway that I will say is don't overcomplicate it. Do the basic stuff excellently well, and you'll see results. I think a lot of us oftentimes don't keep it super simple, but we often try to find ways to overcomplicate things that our consumers aren't even thinking about, right? And what Jimmy said, like, build for the 80%. Don't build for the few one-offs or the 20% that honestly may not even come back and buy. Build for the majority, build for what they're used to seeing. And I think you guys see a lot of success if you apply some of these elements there. But before we leave, I'll give you one last tip. There's one this is one that's been responsible for more or less of everything I've achieved in my career. And that is talk to other people who are smarter than you and get inspiration from what they're doing. One of the pieces why we come and share so much that we do at Obvi and other brands we're building is we've constantly been inspired by others, and we believe there's this path to kind of pay it forward. Um, and so I think right now, with many of you as viewers or viewers after the fact, you're doing a lot of what we do is we're learning from others and we're sharing and we're hoping to share successes. And so, as a thank you for your time, I was thinking, how can I make this presentation more valuable? So I reached out to two of the smartest people I know when it comes to email marketing to share their tips with you as well. And just want to share those real quick. Tip one was prioritize relationship building over sales pitches. Effective email marketing is not just about selling a product or service, it's about building meaningful relationships. And I won't read the entire quote for you guys, but the piece on this part is nurturing the audience that you've built is so important. It's so much more important than getting the quick revenue. And we're going to see this theme more and more and more. It should have started years ago, but as competition and the market and everything changed, now we're forced to do it. So get ahead of the curve and build that relationship, nurture your list, segment your list, personalize your list. Okay. Then tip number two, mastering the art of compelling storytelling. Storytelling is a powerful tool in email marketing. Instead of bombarding your subscribers with features and benefits, craft compelling narratives that resonate with their emotions. Humans are wired to respond to stories, and a well-told story can captivate your audience, making your emails memorable and shareable. I want to touch on a couple of examples here, right? What we do in our Black Friday, Cyber Monday emails outside of the offer is we'll also make sure we're able to tell them the story that we hope that they can live. So we'll sometimes share Vicky Foster's story, which is one of our best customers who's lost 180 pounds on our products and has completely changed her life. But she came from a very dark place in her life, right? And so, yes, there's an offer. Yes, it's Black Friday. Yes, we're being aggressive. But hey, we still want to tell you the story that we hope that you can live, right? Again, builds relationship. Story tells gives them a way to feel like, oh, can I be that person? Right? It's like when we listen to music in our car, right? In a way, we're daydreaming, we're thinking of what we want to be, we're thinking of what this music makes us feel and how we want to be. So don't forget that element when you're creating your email. So, found these two tips to be extremely, extremely helpful for me. Hopefully, it's helpful for you guys. Don't be a stranger. Download this entire presentation here. You can also text me if you're not a stalker, if you have any questions or just want tips. Again, we've made some considerable amount of changes, mainly because the world has changed. And when I say that is the world of e-commerce, consumers, consumer behavior, consumer psychology, a lot of it has changed. It's become more competitive. And it's actually one of the reasons why we also have to change our platform, right? It's one of the reasons why we changed our packaging and branding and design. And my biggest thing is don't be afraid to change things. That doesn't mean overcomplicate them, but hopefully some of these things that we talked about today, you guys can implement, and hopefully it's valuable. And again, download the presentation here and shoot me a message if you guys have any questions. And then the entire playbook that we've put together from with the Sendlane team, you can actually download the entire PDF right here. So just scan this QR code. I'm sure we'll also send it over via email. But this is our entire Black Friday, Cyber Monday playbook.
Amazing, Ron. Well, dude, that was, I love this part, especially the inspirational part and just kind of thinking outside the box. I think it's always great. And I saw the comments that are coming in, obviously the appreciation for the things that, you've been able to share and teach people as well. I think there's some, people replays. Yep. So replays will come out here and everything else. Yeah. Any questions here, people? I don't know how active this question box is, but let me go ahead and kill. Hold on. Let me figure out how to do this real quick. There we go. Okay. Let's find some questions here. All right. I like this one. I think this is such a great question to think about, which is fatigue, right? And people are scared about this because they're worried about, emails. And I think there's a balance here. I think finding that balance is really important. You know what I say, Ron? You know where I see this causes the most problem is brands that are not sending enough emails today. and then they just suddenly out of the holidays decide this is the time to panic send or something like that. That's where I see this happen the most. But if you're pretty consistent, Ron, you'd agree. Like if you're consistent, don't change your consistency. Just take that and
That's right.
kind of push on a little bit, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is the part where your customers throughout the year have been trained a certain way. If I think where this becomes a problem is when you shock them one way or the other. Um, don't change your consistency, just change the way you're approaching, add levels of personalization, add some layers of segmentation, and you'll be surprised how well you can actually still go after customers without it feeling like you're just inundating them with that blast off.
Yeah. I got another really interesting question, but I think let me kind of preset the stage for you. With your retail side, I know we're going direct to consumer here, but with your retail side, you've got this Walmart thing, and I think this is probably very relevant to that. So John was asking, so everybody approach teasers when there's a map controlled industry. So I think it's kind of like retail where you have to do the things that you're doing right there, right? So he's got only the same discount that everybody else has. Like, what would you do? How do you get around the teasers there? Would I've got some ideas, but I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, my thoughts here are what happens inside of the phone or behind the messenger or SMS. I think that's your sacred space. That's what access is. Access is access into privacy on both sides. I think you have to obviously follow the rules. Like if there is clear rules against something, different story. We've played the lines of map a lot. What happens once the access point is through and through, I think is totally different. But that's my thoughts. What happens behind post access is fair game.
Yep, that's how I feel about it too. And I love though what you say. You got a community. I mean, you can tease stuff inside a community. It's a private access. You're in there for a reason. So makes total
That's right.
sense. All right. Last question here. I think this is a little bit broader than just subscription, but I think as you think about the holiday, I'm going to get this a little bit more specific so we can answer this. But like, how do you think about that? Like, are you aiming to get more subscriptions to the holiday, or is it just to get people to taste?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna say this in a very non like. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I could care less about subscriptions during holidays. I don't want. I almost don't want it. I believe it's actually going to get a lower quality subscriber if I get them at such a high discount rate. I don't think they're actually then subscribing for the right reasons. I want a subscriber to subscribe because there's high intent to want to subscribe. So future subscriptions for Obvi during holidays is I don't want them. Future subscriptions for Obvi in general is a different question, but happy to have in there. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on subscriptions.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right way, Ron. Subscriptions, right? Like the last thing you want to do with subscriptions, you're already giving a discount. If you give a further discount just to lock them in, that customer kind of eats up their margins pretty fast over and over, and they're not going to renew at a higher price. And what I always say is like this is the time where you've got the most traffic, the most eyes on your brand, and when people are willing to buy, just get them in there. And if you've got a good product or service, they're going to come back and they're going to want to buy it. And then how to get a similar discount next time is going to be to get on subscription. And when it's a consumable, they're going to most likely go ahead and do that. Because I think for me, when I think about anything that I consume, like I try to get on subscriptions for everything because they just
Yep,
that extra 15%, man, it makes a big difference.
makes a huge difference. I spot on. I agree with you fully.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, I'm gonna pause it there. I think I know your time is precious. I know you got some crazy events going on tonight and right now in New York. So I don't wanna keep you up here.
No,
But
you're good.
Ron, thank you, man. Dude, this was amazing. Great presentation. Enjoyed our little duo as again, getting on here and doing this again in person. I don't think I see
Absolutely.
you next week, but maybe I'll see you soon here. But
Absolutely.
Ron,
No,
thank you guys. Thank you guys to the entire audience. Ron, I'm going to let you roll. Thank you again. And I'll
absolutely.
kind of wrap this up. All right, guys. That is the end of today's spectacular boo, spectacular CR boo, whatever we want to call this thing. What a great little time we've had here today over the last hour, really learning about what Avi's thinking, what Ron's thinking about, what they're playing and applying inside their playbook, thinking about Black Friday. I know your Black Friday playbooks are probably and most likely set at this point. However, hopefully you can take some of these tips that you've learned and take these ideas and start putting up some optimization around it. We thank you guys all for spending your time here on a very busy October as we go through there. And last but not least, thank you for always being a part of Commerce Roundtable. And we hope you have an amazing Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We'll be kicking back off next year as we come back out into the market with our next set of education here. So again, please look out for an email from us. We'll be able to get you your slides, get you the things that you need here. The replay will be available and all that great job. So thank you guys all. Have a great and wonderful Thursday here, and have a great Black Friday and an amazing holiday. See you guys later.